Qualcomm has reportedly told customers to expect double-digit price increases on product shipping after September 1st, 2026. The company says it can no longer absorb higher supplier costs and has been seeking alternative components amid a global memory shortage. On the surface, that sounds like a routine supply chain notice, but the wider implication is more important. Qualcomm sits in mobile and communications, not at the center of the AI accelerator market. If memory scarcity tied to AI infrastructure build-outs is now pushing costs into that part of the chip industry, then the economic footprint of the AI boom may be spreading well beyond the most visible data center bottlenecks. The exact size of the increase, the product lines affected, and the number of customers involved are still unclear. Even so, the direction of pressure is clear enough to matter. That pressure becomes more significant when viewed through the memory supply chain itself. U.S. national security officials are reportedly pushing to expand export controls to target Chinese memory producers, specifically CXMT and YMTC. Both companies are said to have moved from loss-making positions to much stronger market footing during the AI-driven demand surge. Memory and storage are not side components. They sit underneath almost every server, data center, and computing system in operation. So far, export controls have been concentrated on advanced logic chips and AI accelerators. If policy attention now moves into memory, that would suggest a broader definition of what counts as strategic hardware, extending from the most advanced processors into the wider component base that supports the entire system. No rule has been finalized, and this remains a policy signal rather than a confirmed outcome. But it is a notable signal about where scrutiny may be heading. China's response to that pressure is already becoming visible through capital markets. CXMT, one of the memory companies now drawing U.S. attention, has reportedly completed a Shanghai listing after raising $8.6 billion, described as Asia's largest IPO this year. Early government-linked stakes tied to Hefei are said to be valued at roughly $31.5 billion. The significance is not simply the amount raised. It is the financing model. China's semiconductor strategy appears to be using public markets to channel large-scale funding into strategic chip companies, turning state-linked backing into tradable equity positions rather than relying only on direct policy support. The listing does not prove that CXMT can translate new capital into durable operating strength. That remains an open question. But it does show that China is building a market-based funding pipeline for strategic semiconductor capacity. At the same time, those firms are coming under greater foreign scrutiny. Against that hardening rivalry, there is also a narrower and somewhat counterintuitive signal. The United States and China are reportedly preparing high-level bilateral talks, focused specifically on AI safety, even as the broader technology relationship remains confrontational. This does not look like a thaw. It looks more like bifurcation. On one track, the two sides continue to compete over chips, infrastructure, and access to critical technology. On another, they may still see value in maintaining a limited channel for discussing frontier AI risk. No format, timeline, or participant list has been confirmed. So the main point is not what these talks might produce. It is that even in an adversarial environment, there may be room for a narrow form of risk management dialogue that exists alongside strategic competition rather than replacing it. Southeast Asia offers a different kind of response to the same environment. Regional governments are reportedly pursuing localized AI strategies instead of aligning fully with either Washington or Beijing. That appears to be a deliberate choice. By keeping strategies localized, governments may preserve policy autonomy, shape market access on local terms, and support domestic digital infrastructure rather than locking themselves into a single external technology block. But this path has costs. A more fragmented approach can mean higher expenses, slower deployment, and continued reliance on foreign cloud platforms, compute, and models even while governments assert independence in policy language. What makes Southeast Asia important in this broader story is that it shows smaller and mid-sized markets are not simply choosing between two camps. They are also trying to create leverage by avoiding a full commitment to either side. The furthest upstream signal in this picture comes from Japan. The Japanese government has reported that medium and heavy rare earth elements account for 54% of the rare earth content recovered from deep-sea mud off Minamitori Island, gathered by the government-backed drilling vessel Chikyu at a depth of roughly 6 kilometers. Heavy rare earths matter because they are essential to high-performance magnets used in electric vehicles and certain defense systems. Japan's interest is tied to reducing exposure to Chinese export controls over these materials. This is still a resource characterization milestone, not evidence of commercial production. There is no established extraction timeline, cost structure, or processing pathway. Even so, the signal is important. Resilience planning is no longer confined to chip design, manufacturing, or component sourcing. It is now extending all the way back to raw materials. Taken together, these 6 developments describe a technology landscape that is not dividing neatly into 2 blocks. It is becoming more layered, more fragmented, and more security conscious across the full stack. Qualcomm suggests that AI-linked scarcity may already be pushing into adjacent semiconductor markets. Pressure on CXMT and YMTC suggests memory is becoming a strategic control point, not just a commodity input. CXMT's listing shows China using public capital markets to support domestic chip capacity. The reported AI safety talk suggests that rivals may preserve narrow channels for risk management while competing elsewhere. Southeast Asia shows that mid-sized markets are trying to turn non-alignment into bargaining power. And Japan shows that strategic resilience now reaches upstream to critical minerals. For investors, the key discipline is to follow the chain as a whole, rather than reacting to any single headline. Watch whether Qualcomm-style pricing pressure spreads across mobile and communication semiconductors, whether memory tightness persists, and whether scrutiny of CXMT and YMTC hardens into formal controls. Watch whether CXMT converts fresh capital into durable operating performance, whether US-China AI safety talks develop any repeatable structure, whether Southeast Asia's autonomy takes shape through concrete rules and infrastructure, and whether Japan eventually discloses credible extraction economics for its rare earth findings. Asia's technology exposure now runs through governance, capital, memory, components, infrastructure, and minerals at the same time. That broader framework, not just the next headline chip shortage, is what now deserves close attention.